Let's share the slide. Okay, let's continue from last week. Uh, are you already submit the assignment? But I didn't check now. But I will let you know later about who already submit. And okay, let's continue from last week that we talked about like the waste generations, right? And for today, continue on like the property of waste. This is like one content is very important also because if we know the property of the solid waste, we can like estimate for the disposal methods or like for management in the futures. The first property that I will talk about like the physical property. For example, like a specific weight and moisture content and like a particle size and for like the size distribution. But the factor that's very important, this is like a moisture content. For example, the moisture contents they can affect all um, the degradable option, and also the moisture content is related to the chemical property also about the heating value. If we want to burn some kind of the solid waste to get the energy, something like that, but sometimes we have to concern about the moisture contents also. Normally for feed either the waste uh, the energy resource for the solid waste. Normally, it's approximately the moisture content approximately lower than 25% of the of the moisture content, and okay, you can see the difference between the each kind of the solid waste, the aluminum can or like a food waste. Normally, the food waste is like a wet waste, right? It contains a lot of the moisture content. If we know the moisture content property, maybe we can design for the collection system and also for the disposal method. If high moisture content, maybe we can separate that kind of waste for do the others process the make some compost or fertilization is appropriate for the high moisture content of some kind of waste that high moisture content. But if low moisture content and also high energy contents, maybe we can decide for incinerations, right? And also for the other properties like a chemical property of the solid waste. For example, the proximate analysis, ultimate, and energy content. This property is very important because it can for to evaluating the alternative process and recovery option. For example, if we know the contents of energy content, we can decide for a combustion process or use for as used as a fuels or RDF resources from the solid waste. And also, if we know the chemical property about the element or a carbon, nitrogen, we can decide for the make the composting also. And the example of the proximate analysis, normally we analyze the proximate for the combustible components. That means the combustible components the volatile organic compound or the solid, like a total solid and also ash content. I will explain more about the proximate analysis. And for the ultimate analysis, it can divide in the three major analysis about ultimate, the major element, like a carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and ash. This is the major element in the solid waste that we have to know to design sometimes we can use the benefits of property for make the composting. Like we have to know the carbon per nitrogen ratio that's appropriate for degradable or not, something like that. And also for the some components sometimes it's contain the halogen group like a chlorine or bromine in plastic like polynated chloride, something like that. We have to know about this chemical also, because the content of like the halogen group, it can cause of dioxin and furan. This is like if we burning some plastic, right, that contain the chloride or chlorine, it can cause of, after burning, it can cause of like dioxin and furan. This is like the cause of the carcinogen. This is very important factor also that we have to analyze in the solid waste. Sometimes this kind of the halogen group that contain in solid waste, we can design for the burning or combustion process. We have to separate some kind of these contaminants uh, to prevent the air pollution or like the hazardous material that will occur under the combustion process. And the trace element also, the trace element important for like the product of biological conversion. For example, if we want to make some like the biogas or like the composting or fertilizer, we are for degradation or during the degradation process. Sometimes the microorganisms that they need some trace element for their living also. This but sometimes if contain like a high trace element, for example, like the heavy metal parts, something like that. This is we can identify like this kind of waste may be not appropriate for make some compost or for like the biogas, something like that. And also the energy content is one parameter that we have to analyze in like a chemical properties, because if we want to use the solid waste as like use as like the energy resource, we have to know what kind of the solid waste they contain like a high heating value. If low heating value, maybe if we think about the cost benefit analysis, maybe not appropriate to make the energy resources from like a combustion process, thing like that. And also this is show like the proximate analysis. The proximate analysis that is like the analysis for like a combustible components that consists of like the moisture content, volatile, combustible material, fixed carbon, and ash. This is just the example of the proximate analysis that we have to know in like a chemical properties. And this is show the different type of the proximate analysis in different type of the waste, like food waste. For example, the food waste contains a lot of high moisture contents, right? And the volatile matters, approximately 21%. This is it can estimate if we burning the food waste in like like an incineration or combustion process, maybe we can get like the low energy. Maybe they contain like a low heating value because the part of the burning parts like the volatile matter is like quite low. If compared to the others type of waste like a paper types like a cardboard or newsprint or paper, mixed paper, you can see the volatile matter is quite high, right? Maybe higher than 60% of the volatile matter. That means this kind of waste is easy to burning, and maybe we can get a lot of the energy from this kind of waste. And this is also show the different type of the plastic and textile rubber. Also, they contain like a high the volatile metals. It's easy to burning, right? If we want to separate some kind of waste and feed in like the incineration process or use like energy resources, we have to look at this property also, not only the high heat, the heating value, but we have to concern about the volatile matter and moisture content also. And you can see from the other type of like a non-combustible, like a glass, metal, or tin can. You can see the volatile matters is cannot analyze. It means like the low detectable. It sometimes it's like a non-detectable and like an because it's difficult to burning. is we can separate in kind of like a non-combustible waste in this type. And also for the ultimate analysis is very important parameter also. Like we have to know the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. And also the contents of the nitrogen and sulfur is like the important parameter also, because if the solid waste contain high nitrogen and high sulfur, maybe after burning process, if we use like incineration process for dispose the solid waste, right? Maybe it can cause after burning, it can cause of nitrogen dioxide or like a NOx, and also for sulfur dioxide or NOx, something like that. It's like the air pollution, right? If we know some kind of solid waste contain like a high nitrogen and high sulfur, maybe we can separate for dispose by others process, like maybe make some composting or put in landfill, something like that, but not appropriate for put in the incineration process. But it's quite different from like the inorganic part, right? Inorganic part, like ultimate analysis, you can see it's like low carbon, low hydrogen, low oxygen. This is like ultimate analysis. Normally, we use the property of the ultimate analysis for like the to make the biodegradable process and the incineration process. And also the other factor for the chemical property is like energy content. As I said, if we decide to separate some kind of waste that high heating value to put in the incinerator and use as like the energy resources from the like waste to energy, we have to choose some kind of waste like the plastic, textile, or rubber. It's like a quite high energy contents, right? But if compared to the food waste, you can see food waste is lower than like a is lower than like a paper and plastic or rubbers, right? Because not the food waste is also contain, they contain the carbon part also, but the high moisture content, it can cause of the energy like the heating value also. And for the other property of the solid waste is the biological property. This is important factor for to look at like the solid waste. It can easy to degradable or not. And also during the degradable process, they have some like aerobic and anaerobic process, right? And some kind it can cause of the bad smell or like a bad odor. The indicator to identify like a easy or difficult to degradations, like a biodegradable process. We look at like the lignin content. If high lignin content, that means it's difficult to microorganism to degrade. That's solid waste. We can look at the like the lignin content like an indicator for like the biological biodegradability also. We can know like the rapid or slow uh, degradable during the degradable process if we know the contents of this lignin. And other property like the products of odor, as I said, is the biological property. That means this kind of waste is easy to degradable, right? And also it contains like some parts of like the sulfur. During the degradable, it can cause of like a sulfide or the sulfate change to sulfide, and sulfide combined with the hydrogen, it can cause of like a bad smell, like a hydrogen disulfide. It's like the bad odors, right? That can occur from the like organic material, and also if it's easy to degradable, it can cause of the breathing of fire also. This is like the source of like the vector transfer the disease, right, to the human or the environment. This is like the important property of the solid waste about like biological properties, right? After we know the property of the solid waste, we can know how we can design the appropriate transformation process, right? For example, if we know the size or we know the the heating value or the proximate or ultimate and the content, right? We can decide this kind of waste is appropriate for combustible process or not, or appropriate for composting or not, something like that. And also the design, if we know the property, we can decide the recovery method. Some kind of waste we know the high energy content, right? Maybe it can cause of we can use as energy resources, right? This is one method for recycling material to feed in to make the electricity like a waste to energy products. Also, this is the property of the solid waste that we can design for the collection system, transportation, separation, and processing to make the other benefits, right? And also we can design the disposal with that appropriate disposal method in each kind of waste also. And what to do next about if after we know, right, the properties, we can make some the smart design that I said for collection, transportation, or a waste processing, right? And also this is an important uh, factor that we have to know before we planning for the solid waste management for the future. This is the part of the property of solid waste or characteristic of waste that we have to know before we design all the system of the waste management. And also for today we have two sets of the PowerPoints, right? This is I try to finish about the property of the solid waste, and also for the next PowerPoint, I want to talk about the waste reduction concept. Second. I have to share this slide. Okay, you can see the new slide. อืมนักศึกษาคะมันขึ้นสไลด์อันใหม่ไหมคะพอดีอาจารย์สอนไปบางทีมันหน้าจอมันเล่นไปตามอะค่ะโอเคขึ้นอยู่เนาะนะคะโอเค let's continue after we know the property of the solid waste, next we have to know the all process of the waste management, right? Why we have to know the why it's important about the waste management. As I said, it can cause a lot of the impact from the solid waste, right? From the first lecture, I'm talking about the impact of waste, not only a human impact, but also the environmental pollution. Also, it can cause of the solid waste, right? The goal of the waste management that is try to limit the risk of transmission of the disease, the vector disease, flies or rodents that they use they consume some products of the solid waste, right, for their living. But we know this is the vectors, right? It can transfer to the human health, harm to the human health also. And the waste management, one thing is very important, that is we try to limit the risk of the environmental pollution. As I already showed you about the environmental pollution that's caused of the solid waste, like air pollution. After we burning, it can cause of the air pollution if we don't have others control equipment, and can cause of the contamination into the soil and groundwaters, and also for uh, the river or oceans, right? It can try to limit the risk of the environmental pollution for the waste management process. Why the waste management is can transfer to effect on the human and environment. This is just an example of the landfill site that I want to show you about the landfill site. Is like the site to dispose the solid waste, right? If we don't have like the proper management, it can cause of during the degradation of the solid waste. It can cause of like the greenhouse gas released into the environment. It can cause of air pollution, right? And after degradation, it occurs like a leachate or the wastewater from degradation. It's contaminated to the, it can contaminate to the soil and groundwaters. And after contamination, sometimes it can leak into the groundwaters, right? After we pumping the groundwater for water supply, maybe it can cause of the contamination of the heavy metal or like a form like a hazardous or toxic material into the water supply that we use. This is that's why we have to control the solid waste disposal site to prevent the contaminated into the environment, because finally we are live in the environment. If the bad environments like air pollution, high air pollution, and like contaminated in like a high pollution in the environment, finally we can affect on the human health, right? This is I just want to show you about the exposure pathway that is can transfer from like the solid waste to the human health, right? And also normally, from the past to the present, the solid waste management is quite different from the past. We just talked about like the solid waste management, like emphasize on the disposal process. We don't focus on like a 3R concept, like a reduce, reuse, and recycle or energy recovery. We just produce the solid waste and then we dispose into the landfill site or like a open dumping or open burning, something like that. But nowadays it's quite different, right? We have to think about like how we can reduce the amount of the final disposal waste. Like we think about like integrated solid waste management. Sometimes waste is not waste. Sometimes waste it can be like a resource of the energy, right? Like in energy resources, like it can make some fuels or like energy or electricity production from the solid waste, right? Like the figure is like an inward figure. This is nowadays we talk about like integrated solid waste management. That means we focus on like a reduce, reuse, and recycle to reduce the final disposal amount of the solid waste. We don't focus on the dispose method. Why? Because we know that this fourth method in different in various methods. Finally, it can impact on the or like the environment and human health also, like incineration process or landfilling, something like that. And also now we don't have enough of land to dispose the solid waste, like burial the solid waste into the land, right? We have to use the benefit from the waste. This is like the objective or like the goal of the integrated solid waste management. Like nowadays, we can use the waste and then try to reduce the amount of waste. If cannot reduce, is think about it can recycle or not. If can recycle, just separate and collect some kind of waste that it can transfer to the recycling process, and then uh, uh, like make some like a circular economy to get the benefit from waste again. Like have some like the waste process, like make some the energy from waste, like fuels, gasification or electricity. This is like the meaning of integrated solid waste, not only produce and throw away. Uh, just thrown and after thrown just put into the disposal process. This is just waste management, not integrated solid waste management. And also, when we talk about the integrated solid waste management, they consist of like the process follow this. After the waste separation, the next process is the waste reduction and separation as thought. This process is very important nowadays, right? Because this is the first step to reduce the amount of solid waste, like apply some concept of 3R, reduce, reuse, and recycling. We can separate or reduce the amount of waste as we call like a separation as thought. That means as the household area, right? And after we reduce the amount of the solid waste already reduced, maybe 5%, 10%, or 20%. And then after we throw away, um, we come to the storage waste, right? Then we have some like the next process, like a collection system. And after collect by like the private company or like a local uh, government, depend on that area, right? And after collection, they have some like a transportation process. After transport, normally after transportation process, we just collect the solid waste and transfer to disposal site like a landfill or dump site. But now we also try to set up about the separation process and processing and transformation to get the benefit from waste again. Like the secondary, like the second step, right? To reduce the amount of waste again. This is like the important for the integrated storage waste nowadays because during the separation, this process, we can get like maybe energy resources for feed in like the feedstock of the power plant, something like that. And also the final is like the disposal process, right? Why the source separation is very important because that is like the first step that I said we can reduce the amount of waste. For example, we can separate the organic and inorganic materials, right? Like organic waste, if we can separate in household sector, we can make some like the benefits like a hog feeding, uh, to make some all like a transfer to like the local government to collect the organic waste and make some biogas, or sometimes we can make the compost. The compost is not only like the local government can make the composting site, but like a compost pan, but in household area, uh, some family they try to use the compost and use in like their house or also they have their households also. And for the other source separation like a recycling waste like glass, paper, plastic, metal, and aluminum. This is just the five group, but in each group they can separate in like the various uh, type of that waste like the plastic. The plastic they have some like the waste like the many kind of the plastic. Some kind of plastic is can recycle, but some kind of plastic is cannot recycle, right? Uh, but we have to know the symbol of or like some material that make the that plastic again to separate kind of plastic. And this is show the glass, right? Glass is also they have different kind of glass. Normally they separate which or like the color of glass. It's easy to transfer for like the recycling process. And the papers also is can uh, separate in like a white, like a white paper or brown paper, something like that. And also the kind of plastic waste that I said, some kind of plastic waste is difficult to recycle, right? But if that plastic, if that's packet, you can see like the symbol of like a recycling symbol like this, like the triangle of the arrow. You can see they have seven types of the plastics, right? But if based on uh, the seven type of this plastic is can recycled, and also the metal and aluminum also is can be like a recycled material. And after we separate, I don't go to detail in each stage, right? But I just want to show you about the all state of waste management, and I will emphasize all like the waste reduction process and the waste separation and processing to make the benefits or others option for the waste recycling. And this is shown nowadays why we talk about like a circular economy about the plastic waste and also the solid waste, not only the plastic, right? From the past, we use the product in every product that we use, and finally it's become to the waste, right? During we use the product uh, before it's become to products, right? We call like a linear economic. That means just we take some the like the resource in like a natural resources like the petroleum something like that to make some like the plastic bottom in the like the process industrial or manufacturing process, right? Takes and then make the products. After make the product, uh, go to the step of use the products, right? After we use the product, we just dispose, and the local government just collect the solid waste and then make some disposal process like landfilling or incineration and like or open dumping or open burning. That's it for like the waste management from the past. That is we call like the takes make, maybe is add one word is like a use, right? Takes make use and then dispose. This is we call like a linear economy. We cannot get any benefit from that product after become to waste, right? But nowadays it's quite different. We have to think about like the circular economy. The circular economy that means it's tied to make some like upcycling of the waste, right? To make to after become to the waste, how we after use, right? After use before go to the disposal site or disposal process, we have to think about this kind of waste is can recycle or not. If can recycle, it can transfer to like the like a raw material and use in like the raw material in the manufacturing process again or not. This is we can call like the circular economy. Like Thailand nowadays, we have the policy about the circular economy also about the plastic waste. We know nowadays the amount of solid waste that continuously increase, right? We try to reduce the amount of the plastic waste, but uh, during the like COVID-19 pandemic, we use a lot of the like online shopping or like food delivery, something like that. This is also it can cause of the plastic waste, right? And also they try to have the policy to try to separate the solid waste, the plastic waste. That is like the polyvinyl chloride or like the Thai like Taiwan Thai normally it's Taiwan, right? Like a PET, like the polyethylene theta catalyst, right? This is like it can easy to use for like the material in industry again. That's why some company they try to design their product for like a circular economy again to like make the loop of like upcycling of their products also. This is we call like the circular economy. If we look at the difference from the linear and circular, that means we can reduce the amount of the disposal waste, right? The waste that go to the final disposal process. And not only that, but we can get like the benefit from waste also. That's I said maybe the waste is not waste. Waste maybe become to resource or like a raw material again in the like a manufacturing process. This is like the circular economy. This is just the first step in Thailand. But for the others country, like a developed country, they also concerns about this policy also. But maybe some country already success about like a circular economy. Maybe I will show you about the case study about circular economy from the uh, in future lectures, right? For the next lecture. And also this is just show you about the solid waste become to the resource, right? Like a resource of the circular economy. But sometimes we not only the after use product and become to waste, we think about the circular economy. That I said, but sometimes the producer is like the company. They have to design their product for the environment, or they have to rethink about like a redesign of their product for for the circular economy also. Uh, uh, Normally we will know about like three concepts, right? Like a three R, like a reduce, reuse, and recycle. But for the future, maybe we will hear about the reduce, reuse, and remanufacture. That means the recycling is changed to like a remanufacture. That means the circular economy feed into the raw material of the industrial process again. This is the idea of the circular economy. From the this is just show for example, if you report the solid waste by landfill, right? The landfill we know produce the greenhouse gas like a methane, because this is the like a degradation process, right? And under anaerobic condition, it can produce like a methane and carbon dioxide. We know the methane is can use for the electricity generations, right? This is also we can use this the products of the landfill and feed into like the electricity generation also. This is the circular. That means we can get the benefit from waste also. And this is also show the before we think about the circular economy, maybe we have to like making the life cycle of that material. We have to know the life cycle, what kind of the resource before uh, manufacture. Is for example, if we want to know about the papers, right? The paper is made from wood, something like that. The raw material is wood, right? And then during the manufacturing process, and after we get like the product is like the paper product, and after use, we have to know all process, and after use, how we can dispose the content of the property of the paper, right? To decide for the product of the circular. Maybe we have to think, maybe the company have to think first about their product before they produce to sell to the customers, right? And also some part we focus on the customer, but some part we focus on the manufacturer process or producer. And you can look at what kind of loop that we can add in for circular, right? Maybe you like the product is maybe first loop, something like that. And for the third loop, maybe design for reuse in the manufacture. Maybe we design for the plastic bottom or a glass bottom that's make some poly the base grade of the plastic, something like that, for make some reuse again for the industry. And also, after we know the concept of how we can use the benefit from the waste in terms of the circular economy, the final process that I want to focus from this flowchart, that is the disposal process. The disposal process is consists of many processes, depend on the kind of the solid waste. But normally, in Thailand, uh, the percent of separation, the separation as part of the solid waste is quite low. Maybe we can get the mixed waste, right? For the mixed waste, sometimes it's difficult to make for further uh, disposal process. We what and this is I want to show you from the part to the patients about the disposal methods. It's like the first like open dumping and open burning. The open dumping and burning is like a raw method. This both method is can cause of the air pollution and environmental pollution, right? I will show you later. And the burials, incineration, for the incineration, sanitary landfill, and biological conversion. This is like the new technology for the waste management. Uh, that they have to control like the environmental pollution that release from that method. This is show the open dumping. From this you can see, right? We just open dump the solid waste onto the land without any environmental protection. It can cause of the soil and groundwater's contamination. This is like the wrong method, right? And also after degradation, it can cause of like the fires because after degradation, it release like a greenhouse gas also from this open dump site. And this is show the open burning. The open burning is like the wrong methods also, but some area in Thailand also still use this method for like dispose the solid waste like open burning. You can see from this it can cause a loss of the air pollution, right? Like a smoke, dust, or like the black carbon, and also it can cause of the greenhouse gas, right? Uh, the greenhouse gas are also related to uh, the solid waste is also related to the global warming and climate change also because the source of solid waste is can produce the greenhouse gas, right? Not only the open burning, but in landfilling also. And from the make composting also it can cause of many process of the waste management. It can cause of the greenhouse gas and not only the environmental pollution, but the human impact is also it can occur from the waste management by the open burnings like the respiratory impact or irritation. And this is like other methods, like the burial method is normally used in like in rural area, in some rural area or countryside, right? It's like they produce like the small amounts of the solid waste. They can use like the burial process to dispose their solid waste. But this is like the without this method, it without any environmental protection also. Uh, but nowadays maybe they don't use this method. Just only some countryside or like a rural area. And for the other process that I want to emphasize for the waste disposal, that is the incineration process. That means the burning process of the solid waste, like combustion process, under the control the factor and also control the environmental pollution. Like after burning, normally we know after burning, the ash or like the solid part will be occurred, right? They have to some equipment to collect the ash and management for the ash disposal again. And also during the burning, it can cause of the air pollution, right? We know after burning, not only the open burning, but in closed system like incineration process, it also produce the like the greenhouse gas or like the toxic gas or air pollution, right? But after the air pollution already occurred, they try to uh, connect to like the treatment equipment, right? To treat air treatment before release the clean air into the environment. We call like an air pollution control system and dust control system also to remove the small particle from the flue gas before release into the environment, right? This is like the incineration process. Why the incineration process is very interesting nowadays? Because it can reduce the amount of waste. It's like huge, it can reduce like a huge amount of waste, right? It's quite different from landfilling, right? Landfilling, we put like a 1 kilogram into the soil. That means maybe it takes for like a many years to degradation, right? The volume is maybe slowly reduced, right? But If compared to the incineration, maybe we burning 1 hour of the solid, 1 ton of the solid waste, maybe 1 hour that disappears, right? This is why the incinerated of the solid waste is very important, and also maybe it can remove like the bad smells, right, during the burning process. Uh, and also that this process is can dispose the hazardous material also. But his concern concerns about the ash after burning. Sometimes it contains like hazardous material. The ash maybe contain like a heavy metal. We cannot use all the dispose the ash into the general landfills, right? Right? Maybe we have to uh, make some like mix some cement to put into the like sanitary landfill, not the not only the general landfill, right? And also this is show like the incineration plant in Tokyo in Japan, right? We know the Japan they success about like the dispose the solid waste by incineration process, because their country is can separate kind of waste like kind of like a high heating content of the solid waste like the plastic waste from like the organic material. That's why they can put that waste into the incineration. They can get a lot of the benefit, like the high energy contents of the solid waste. But it's quite different from Thailand, right? Thailand is like a mixed waste. Maybe during burning process, if we put the mixed waste into the incineration, maybe like high moisture content, we need to consume a lot of energy before produce the energies, right? And also in Japan, they use the energy from like the incineration process to make the electricity like a waste to energy concept also to get the benefit from like the waste management. And this is just show the incineration plant. I don't want to go more detail. I want just you to know about after collection and dumping into the incineration plant and then put into the incinerator like at the chamber of the incineration process, and then uh, after burning it can cause of like we can get like the ash, right? And flue gas is like a high temperature. We can connect to the system to generate the electricity. And the dirty gas, we just use the temperature, high temperature of gas, right? But the flue gas, the contamination of the flue gas is still is still in the systems, right? We have to make some cool down of that gas and then remove some particle from the gas to make the clean gas before released into the environment from the spec. The pollution control of the incineration process. Like we know the particulate matter is already occurs, right? During the burning process, like the black carbon or small particle, we can remove by use like an electrostatic precipitator to make some clean air, right? And also the NOx and SOx, is maybe if they contain like the nitrogen and sulfurs, right? It can cause of the NOx and sulfur after uh, burning. Maybe we can remove the NOx and SOx by adding some or inject some chemical like the waste chemical or dye chemical to make some like the reaction to remove the NOx and SOx also. And for the carbon monoxide and hydrocarbon is normally this pollution occur during the combustion. The combustion process is like a we stockpile like a low oxygen. It can cause of the carbon monoxide, right? That's why in the incineration process, we have to calculate about how much of oxygen that we need to input to burn burning the solid waste. It's like the complete combustion to prevent the carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons, right? This is just the pollution control system in like an incineration process. And also the ash. After ash occurs, ash consists of like the light part, and the heavy part is like a bottom ash and fly ash. Fly ash, maybe we use some like equipment, air equipment to remove the small particles, right? Like a dust removal. But for the bottom ash, maybe that I said is contain like sometimes it's contain like a hazardous material. If we burning hazardous waste, right? And we have to collect that air and put this pot in secure landfill or mix some cement to make some like the stable, right? The stable of the bottom ash. If that contain hazardous material, right? If not contain hazardous material, we have to analyze the ash before we dispose, right? If just the normal ash is like a not contain hazardous material, we can use for like just put in sanitary landfill or landfilling. That's enough for like ash management. But nowadays they use the bottom ash and fry ash for like for manufacturing also. It's like the in cement mix with the cement to make some brick, something like that, or make some like the road, something like that. This is they try to use the benefit from the solid waste also. And the incineration process are important for like the energy recovery also. If uh, if we dispose uh, if we burning like the high heating value of the solid waste, right? We can get high energy of the flue gas, right? That we can use the benefit from the waste form to make the like the electricity also, or heat in like the steam or boiler in the industry also. This is we can use like the benefit from the waste by convert to the energy resources. And also sometimes we cannot use like the 100 of energy recovery from waste, but maybe just the supplement, maybe 10% or 20% of original energy. Like normally in if your industry use like the energy source from like a coal or like the fuel used from coal, something like that. Maybe if you use the cogeneration from waste recovery 20%, that means you use the coal 80%. You can reduce the amount of like the coals, right? To support the energy sources of your industry, something like that. This is we call like a cogeneration system, use both or like the thermal and electricity production in the industry. In Thailand, they try to use the cogeneration system from the waste recovery uh, from the solid waste in like the cement plants. And this is show like the disposal method in Asia. Normally in Thailand also, we are still dispose the solid waste 80% by landfilling. Uh, this is we use like the low not we use like a like a original method from like the waste disposals, right? But for the incineration maybe only less than 10% for the incineration process. That I said the composition of the solid waste in Thailand, normally we cannot separate, right? We cannot separate like 100% for the separation in each kind of waste. Maybe it's quite different. It's quite difficult to fit in the stock of the burning process, right? And also for the composting, we also use the composting process for like the organic material, like yard waste, food waste also, but it's quite low, right? When compared to other countries. But why I show this graph because I want to show you some country they success about like the incineration process for this for the solid waste like Singapore or Japan. Uh, because of their country is limit of the land area, right? It's like their country is like an island, right? And also they try to find some other technology to dispose the solid waste and also get the benefit from waste by using like energy resources, something like that. This is just the method that I want to show you. But for next week, I will continue from the others method from like the solid waste management, like landfilling and use the other benefit from waste, like make some composting of fertilizer and also to make the biogas, something like that. Before midterm exam, I try to finish up all process about the waste management, and after that, I will assign you to make some like assignments or like make some like learn from the case study uh, for this course, right? And this is show like the electricity production from the waste management from the incineration plant in developed country. It's like you can see from Japan, they have some uh, the pen about like a 200 and 10 pen is uh, higher than other developed countries, right? This is show like they can success in like the waste management in information process. And also for today, I have assignment two for like a 10 point. It's very easy. You can do, you can do maybe just only 5 minutes. That's enough. Okay, I will show you about. I will give you the link, right? Just a second. Okay. Okay, I put link for assignment two in like a chat. Okay, can you click the link from the meeting chat? Can or cannot? นักศึกษาเข้าลิงก์ได้ไหมคะ
อาจารย์ครับพอเข้าไปเป็นชื่ออาจารย์นะครับเป็นเมลอาจารย์นะครับ
ฮะ มันเป็นเมลอาจารย์
ใช่ครับ
ใช่ครับ
มันเป็นอีเมลชื่ออาจารย์
อ้าวเหรอ เดี๋ยวนะ แป๊บหนึ่ง อาจารย์ต้องคลิกยังไงอ่ะ เดี๋ยวนะ อ๋อ โอเค เอาใหม่ ได้ไหมคะทีนี้ ลองใหม่ ลองใหม่ หรือว่ามันก็อันเดิมไหมเนี่ย
ได้แล้วครับ
ได้แล้วใช่ไหมอ่ะทำเลยค่ะ แป๊บเดียวเนาะทำเสร็จก็ส่งเลยค่ะ Okay, you can start the assignment now. Maybe only 5 minutes. That's enough for this assignment. I don't want you to waste your time too much for assignment. Why I assign the assignment to you in every week because for midterm exam, maybe I decide for no exam, no midterm exam. You can get the score from the assignment. Many students already submit. It's very easy, right?
อาจารย์ครับ นี่ไม่ต้องใส่ชื่อ ไม่ต้องใส่เลขนักศึกษาเลยเหรอครับ
ไม่ค่ะ ให้ทำเฉยๆค่ะ
เอาโอเคครับมาครับ
นับจำนวนค่ะ นับจำนวน
โอเคครับ
Okay, who already submit the assignment, you can leave this meeting and see you on next week.
สวัสดีครั
อาจารย์ส
บ
วัสดีครับ
ได้ขอบคุณค
สวัส
รั
ดีครับ
บ
อาจารย์
สวัสดีครับขอบคุณครั
สวัสดี
บ
ครับ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
ครับ
สวัสดีครับ
ให้ใส่ชื่อเดี๋ยวคะแนนมันจะได้ไม่เต็มไงคะเผื่อมีคนทำไม่เต็มนะคะ ไม่ต้องใส่ชื่อนะคะเดี๋ยวให้คะแนนเต็มไปเลยนะคะ
อาจารย์อาทิตย์นี้ก็มีโฮมเวิร์กแค่นี้ใช่ไหมครับอาจารย์
ใช่ค่ะ
ครับขอบคุณครับ
ค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณครับอาจารย์
ค่ะ
อาจารย์ครับผมเพิ่งมาเรียนคลาสนี้คลาสแรกนะครับ
อะไรนะคะ
ผมเพิ่งมาเรียนคลาสนี้เป็นคลาสแรกครับผมเพิ่งเรียนรีจิสเตอร์ครับผมคลาส2
แล้
คว ลาสก่อนหน้านี้มีอะไรผมต้องทำไหมครับ
มี assignment ค่ะ assignment เราไปโหลดดูเราไปได้ไหมคะในเอกสารจะมีชีทหน้าสุดท้ายว่าทำ
ครับขออีกทีนึงนะครับเมื่อกี้ผมไม่ได้ยินนะครับมีอะไรนะครับ
คะ
พวกอาจารย์พูดอีกทีนะครับเมื่อกี้ผมไม่ได้ยินนะครับ
อ๋อ มันมี assignment 1 ค่ะ ให้นักศึกษาไปโหลดดูจาก material เนาะที่อาจารย์อัพไว้ให้นะคะในสไลด์สุดท้ายมันจะมี assignment อยู่ว่าให้ทำอะไรเนาะแล้วก็ส่งย้อนหลังมาที่อาจารย์นะคะ
โอเคครับได้ครับ
ส่งในไลน์
ครับ
กลุ่มเนาะเราอยู่ในไลน์กลุ่มไหม
อยู่ครับผม
ค่ะนั่นแหละค่ะส่ง
โอเคครับขอบคุณครับ
โอเค limit 2 persons left โอเค